Night 1. The Beginning. King Shahryar and Shahrazad. Long ago, in a vast and powerful kingdom, there lived a mighty king named Shahryar.
He was just and noble, until one day he discovered that his beloved wife had betrayed him with one of the palace servants. Heartbroken and enraged, Shahryar lost all trust in women. In his bitterness, he made a terrible decision.
He would marry a new woman every night and have her executed the next morning to ensure she would never betray him. One by one, daughters across the kingdom disappeared into the palace, never to return. But then came Shahrazad, the wise and brave daughter of the king's vizier, chief minister. She had a plan to stop the killings. "Father," she said, "marry me to the king. I will either save the women of this land or perish trying." Her father was horrified, but she insisted. That night, Shahrazad was taken to the palace and became Shahryar's new bride. As the moon rose and death loomed at dawn, Shahrazad spoke calmly to the king. "May I tell your majesty a story to pass the night?" Curious, the king agreed. Her story was fascinating, filled with wonder and mystery. But just before the tale reached its end, she stopped. "If you let me live, I'll finish it tomorrow night." Intrigued, Shahryar spared her. He wanted to hear the ending. And so began the 1001 Nights, with a clever woman weaving stories night after night to stay alive and to heal a king's wounded heart. As the second night began, King Shahryar eagerly awaited the rest of Shahrazad's tale. But instead of finishing the first story, she surprised him by starting a new one, even more mysterious than the last. She said, "O wise king, listen to the tale of the merchant and the demon." Once upon a time, there was a wealthy merchant who traveled often between lands. One day, during a long journey, he stopped to rest beneath a tree in the middle of the desert. He took out some bread and dates to eat. As he threw away the date pits onto the ground, a terrifying demon suddenly appeared before him, giant, fierce, and holding a shining sword. "Stand up, human," the demon roared. "You have killed my son with one of your date pits." The merchant was stunned. He fell to his knees and begged, "Please, mighty spirit, I had no idea. I threw the pit by accident. I never meant to harm anyone." But the demon was not moved. "Intentions do not matter. I have sworn to take your life." The merchant asked only for one thing. "Give me a year. Let me return home to say goodbye to my family, settle my affairs, and then I will return to this place on the same day, and you may take my life." The demon laughed bitterly. "Humans lie, but I see you are honest. I grant you 1 year. But if you do not return, I will hunt you to the ends of the earth." And with that, he vanished. The merchant returned home, gave his family all he had, and after a year, kept his promise. He went back to the tree, ready to face his fate. As he waited for the demon to arrive, 3 old men, each leading a strange animal, passed by and asked why he was sitting there looking so sad. When he told them his story, they were amazed. Each man said, "We will wait with you, and if the demon appears, perhaps our stories will soften his heart." Just as the sun began to set, the demon appeared again. But before he could strike the merchant down, the first old man stepped forward and said, "O fearsome demon, If I tell you a tale stranger than this man's, will you spare him 1/3 of his life?" The demon narrowed his eyes. "Tell your story." And that is where Shahrazad paused her tale. Again, shall I tell the old man's story, O king? If you allow me to live another night, you shall hear something truly marvelous. And once again, King Shahryar, curious and enchanted, spared her life. On the third night, Shahrazad resumed her story. The first old man stepped before the demon and said, "O mighty spirit, I have a tale that, if it amazes you, I hope you will grant this merchant 1/3 of his life."
The demon agreed. So the old man began. "Know, O demon, that I once had a wife I loved dearly, though she loved me not in return.
We had no children for many years, so I raised a deer in my house. This deer was as dear to me as a child. But one day, I returned home and found my deer missing. I searched everywhere. Then I learned a terrible truth. My wife was a sorceress. She had turned the deer into a human, my own son. She had hidden from me that I had a son. Out of jealousy, she had transformed him into an animal. I confronted her, and in my anger, I used her own magic to turn her into a mule. My son returned to his true form, and the deer vanished. Since that day, I have wandered the earth with this mule, who was once my wife, seeking peace." When the old man finished, the demon was indeed amazed. "This is a strange tale. I grant the merchant 1/3 of his life." Then the second old man stepped forward. "And I," he said, "have a story no less wondrous." Shahrazad paused once again. "If your majesty permits me to live until tomorrow night, I shall tell you the second old man's tale." And once more, King Shahryar spared her, longing to hear more. As the fourth night began, Shahrazad said, "O king, after the first old man finished his story, the second old man stepped before the demon and said, 'If I tell you a tale stranger than the first, will you grant the merchant a 2/3 of his life?' The demon agreed. The second old man began, "O demon, know that I have 2 brothers, both greedy and jealous. I was a merchant like them. Together we sailed far and wide. One year I earned great wealth through hard work and returned home. My brothers, envious of my success, pretended to congratulate me. But while we were traveling together by sea, they plotted against me. One night, as I slept, they threw me into the ocean, hoping I would drown, and they could steal my wealth. Yet fate saved me. I clung to a floating piece of wood and washed up on an island. There I found a beautiful woman dressed in silk. She was not a woman like others. She was a spirit from the sea, and she helped me. I married her, and we lived together in peace. But one day, while I was away, my wife was taken by the sea spirits. I was left alone again. I returned home and forgave my brothers. I have traveled ever since with this black dog beside me. For know, O demon, this dog is my brother, transformed as punishment by my wife's magic before she vanished forever." The demon marveled at the story. He said, "This is indeed wondrous. I grant the merchant a 2/3 of his life." Then the third old man stepped forward. "And I too have a tale for you, no less strange than these." Again, Shahrazad paused her story. "If your majesty wishes, I shall tell it tomorrow night." And so the king spared her once more.